Fitchburg Now. I'm your host, Sam Squalia. Our show here is on a recovery roundtable. We're talking about facing addiction. So we're going to have just a fluid, comfortable conversation on recovery and addiction today. All right, I have a full panel of guests here. We have Tara, Susan, Rich, Ashley, Josh, and Charlie. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to start talking about recovery. So, we have people, everyone's in various stages of recovery coaches, my first question was really what the word recovery means, What does that mean? I feel like it means different things to different people.
Yeah, we're all like, yes, it does.
Yeah. Who wants to jump in?
I want to jump in for that.
No, does the professional want to?
What do you think, Rich?
Yeah.
What does recovery mean to you?
Well, Susan, thank you.
Sam?
Sam, yeah, you're Susan. My apologies, Sam. Sam, at Safe Landing,
yes.
Our supportive living house for women in recovery, certainly, you're right. Recovery means different things to different people. I think that more often than not, it is associated with recovering from alcohol or drugs. I think that as human beings, we're all in recovery from something. Because most people that are unfortunately afflicted with the disease of addiction is usually a co-occurring component of mental illness or some sort of emotional challenge that I think that needs to be addressed in regards to recovering or treating that as well.
So when you're in recovery, you're in a comprehensive recovery from multiple elements.
Thank you so much, Sam. Very well done.
Just jumping in.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
What do you think, Josh?
Recovery to me is a new life and a new beginning. Put that, for me, I had a lot of trauma, hurt, anger. I got to put all that in my past. So, recovery is a new beginning, to move forward from that. Not close it and, not look at it, but just to, address it in a slow, how do you say?
Deliberate?
Yeah, deliberate, It's definitely a new beginning for me. It's something that I've never done. My recovery, where I'm at now, is the most I've ever, been, and really trying this time. So it's definitely means, new beginning, basically. That's what I can say. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, where are you right now?
I'm just hit 10 months. My sobriety date is April 3rd.
April 3rd, 10 months.
Yeah, so this coming April 3rd, I'll have a year.
Oh, that's 1 year.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I got 10 months. Next month will be 11 months.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I know I only got today because we have to stay in the day, and that's from the programs that I've been to. They helped me show that and, stay in the day. And I got my gratitude rock that I keep with me every day. So when I'm nervous, I rub it and, I take it out of my pocket and start saying things I'm grateful for. Because I got to stay grateful within the day and stay positive, so helps me, it's that recovery tool,
Yeah.
so.
So you had other traumas?
Yeah, I've been through a whole lot. My mom worked a lot and my dad was incarcerated when I was a child, so I was raised by my siblings. And a lot of abuse went on in the home, physically, sexually, mentally, so I didn't want to be home at a young age. So by 9 years old, I was out already running the streets and living the street life.
At 9 years old?
9 years old, smoking weed. I was stealing cars by 10. By the time I was 15, I was already in adult incarceration, committed to DYS, and it only got worse from there. By 16, I met my kid's mother, which I was with her for 11 years, and I got 3 boys, 13, 11, and 9. So But I had to grow up fast once I started having kids at 18, you know, and by then I was already drinking really heavy and doing drugs and trying to live that party life and still live that street life, but try to be, you know, a family member, you know, and I didn't know how to be honest, you know. I'm only now starting to grow up, to be honest, you know, so it's been a journey. Rollovers, car accidents, I had blackouts, I put my hand through a storefront window.
A lot of rock bottoms?
Yeah, over and over, jail cells, everything. So definitely a lot of eye openers, but I didn't want to open my eyes. I was scared to. I was afraid of everything.
And this is your first time
In recovery like this, yeah. Like I had recovery before, but it wasn't true recovery. I was still smoking weed here and there and trying to play the system, manipulate it, because that's something I'm really good at, you know. And this time I'm really like sober from everything, and it's big, you know.
So recovery, you're healing yourself.
Absolutely. Today I love myself. I noticed now that drinking and drugging was just a solution for me. I was the problem, you know. I had a lot of fear, resentment, you know, anger, you know, hurt, all these emotional feelings I didn't know how to deal with, you know, and I'm dealing with them today sober. And that's because of the Worcester County Sheriff's Office. They led me to AA, and AA, I'm very, very active there. So, and I have to be. I chase my recovery like I did my addiction, you know, so it's big for me.
Were you in the program?
Yeah, I did 10 months at the Worcester County Sheriff's Office.
What's the program?
Office of Community Corrections.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
I see the graduations at the courthouse.
Yes,
Yeah.
they both just graduated.
Okay, yeah, I saw it in the paper.
Yeah, it was big for us. It was very big.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the first.
And that's a 10-month program?
No, it's 6 to 9 months.
6 to 9
Depending
months.
on where you are when you get there is basically how you're gonna stay there. And you know, some of us get it, some of us don't. That was my 3rd time in that program in the last 12 years. So this time I got it.
Nice.
You know,
You get out of it what you put into it.
absolutely.
That's what it is. Right
Absolutely.
Right, but you need that chance.
Yeah.
And in this area, people are more likely to get that chance. The Office for Community Corrections, there are multiple offices across the state. The one in Fitchburg does the highest number of people go through the program, not because this area has a worse problem than anywhere else. It's that we have a court in Fitchburg and Judge Lecanto who is compassionate and recognizes that addiction is the issue. It's not, that's what's behind the behavior that brings a person to court. And so we are so fortunate here in Fitchburg to have the court system that we do, to have Judge Lecanto, to have the Sheriff's Office of Community Corrections, because I really believe it's saving lives.
Yeah.
Right. It is. It's like you said, if we want to work it, like for the longest time, I thought the courts and the sheriff's offices was a setup, you know, but it was not. It's there to help you if
A
you
setup?
want. Yeah.
You mean like it was just a front?
Yeah,
like no one's really recovering?
You're gonna go there and you're gonna end up in jail anyway. So it just, you know, and unfortunately there are people there that do care about you. Well, not unfortunately,
Fortunately.
but yeah, fortunately, you know, they do care about you and they do want you to succeed. We just got to put in the work and show them if we really want it.
Do you feel like it was a connection that you made there that convinced you that it wasn't just
No, when I first came 10 months ago, I had no higher power. Okay, I didn't believe there was God. I didn't believe there was, you know, something greater than me, you know, and whatever it is that people want to believe in. And I thought my life sucked and it was miserable and it was, you know, everything's out to get me and this and that and all these things. But that was just my addiction talking, you know, and it wasn't. My higher power was with me, and he was there with the judge when he gave me that second chance because I was looking at some serious time, and he gave me another break and another chance to, you know, and he's seen it in me, and I'm very grateful. That's why I stay grateful, and you know, and I met Charles there. I met a lot of guys there that are in my recovery, like our network. We got a big network from the sheriff's station.
how many people were in your class?
It was a lot.
Yeah, there was about 30 of us.
Oh, yeah?
You know, total. But
Yeah.
they kept
And how many do you guys keep
track.
in contact with?
That's
About 10.
about 10 of them.
Oh, good. What about you, Charlie? Do you have a similar story?
Yeah, similar story. I was 4 or 5 down at Coolidge Park drinking out in the open with my parents.
Did you say 4 or 5 years old?
Yeah, absolutely. That was just the lifestyle. I grew up on Elm Street. A lot of stuff happened during the 80s that was kind of off the wall, but that was my induction to planet Earth, you know, so I just thought that was going to be how life was, and ended up taking that attitude all around America, the continental U.S., and but they embraced me well. They, you know, they helped me survive. You know, there was good times, bad times.
Your parents?
No, that was a long time. I just meant my whole journey. I lost my father my graduating year of Money Tech, 2001. That was a big depression drop for myself and my mother. You know, she had trouble she was, you know, working, paying the bills and everything, and I was doing what I could to help with all that. I was working a job, going to school, and then after graduation, I picked up another job during the day. You know, so it went okay. But that's brings me back to what you were saying, how recovery means different things to different people, and recovery is different things for different situations. You know, I'm also recovering from being a traveler, as well as you know, the drugs, alcohol, and
Sure.
But
Is that a thing?
yeah, just a little bit. But it was good.
You do get addicted to traveling. I feel like.
absolutely.
A picture to right, a picture
anything.
right on the beach.
Yeah.
Sam, I think that you asked an important question to Josh. It's Josh, correct?
Yes.
You said, I think you asked, was he looking for a connection, or what connection was made there?
Right.
And I feel like what we're finding in the work that we're doing with women at Safe Landing is that, you know, listening to Josh's story, particularly when he talked about being separated from his parents, and even Charlie here talking about the loss of his dad, that more often than not, as humans, we really want to bond.
Right.
And when we suffer certain losses like that and are looking to bond with something, unfortunately, that can be drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
That is
Absolutely.
so true.
Bonding with drugs and alcohol.
Sure.
Like your cigarette's your buddy.
But
Like you always go out and have your cigarette.
And so, you know, I think a lot of times what might separate the person that will allow their lives to spin out of control, and usually that means jails, institutions, and death, right, is trying to somehow find not just a connection, but a deeper engagement into something that might be a little bit bigger than yourself. You mentioned higher power earlier. For some people, it might be career. Some people, it might be family. Those things may not work
Like
for
replacing
everyone.
a bond with addiction
Correct.
to a bond
Correct.
with your higher power.
So sometimes, you know, when I'm talking with the people at Safe Landing, that they may feel that I think I was saying this to you today, that the opposite of addiction isn't always just sobriety. Sometimes it's connection.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's very accurate, and I think that you know, based on what we know about the origin of addiction, what we've heard so far here today is extremely common. There is a study that people can look up that sheds a lot of light on the origin of addiction, called the ACEs study.
ACEs?
ACEs. It's the Adverse Childhood Experiences, and it was a huge study with. It was many years, many people, and what they found was there's a direct correlation between childhood trauma, such as a parent being incarcerated, losing a parent, early introduction to alcohol or drugs. There's a huge correlation there between that early trauma and someone becoming addicted.
A lot of sexual abuse.
All
trigger.
kinds of abuse. It could be an absent parent. It could be just disruption. It could be seeing a parent abused. So in a domestic violence situation, anything that traumatizes a child, if not recognized and if the person doesn't receive, if the child does not receive the supports they need, addiction is a very, very strong possibility.
The love and comfort as a child, you know. I didn't get a lot of that when I was a kid. My mom, she was there for me financially, you know, and she would always try to buy my love and stuff instead of actually putting her arms around and say I love you and saying everything's gonna be okay. But then she wasn't there, so I couldn't reach out for her because I was scared, you know? So when I was molested, when I was about, say, 7 years old, I didn't share that until I was 28 years old. And that was just isolated in the back of my mind, and what I was doing was didn't want to be home, so I was going out to the street to try to find somewhere to fit in. And then unfortunately, when you go out there, there's nothing but drugs and alcohol, because that's what society tells us that's there for us. You know what I mean? And they advertise it everywhere, and you know, and it's sad. And people like me, you know, me personally, that's what I would do. You know, I wanted to, you know, feel better, you know, and I didn't know any other way to feel. I didn't have comfort at home, that love and comfort. So what I do with my kids today, I tell them that I love them. I tell them that I'm proud of them. And, you know, when they're down and out, or, you know, they get really emotional easy, so I try to give them the comfort and stuff, because I know that had a big part in my addiction today, you know, and that's, you know, I didn't know that a year ago. You know, I do a lot of counseling, psychiatrist, but the sheriff's station, I did a men's awareness group there, and that class does extensive childhood trauma and everything there as a parent, all types of stuff. So I started looking in myself real deep, and it was real big, and I started seeing the wrongs that I chose drugs and alcohol over, you know, and it's big. And I believe that 100%, you know, things that happen to you as a child could really affect the way you're going to be an alcoholic or an addict.
It causes you to not be able to make trustful connections with people.
Sure.
A lot of the times we as addicts too will use drugs and alcohol to cope with whatever we're feeling, be it we feel like nobody cares about us, or we're getting at a young age picked on in school, something. So we do whatever we can to try to fit in or to cope with the feeling of loneliness and emptiness. Some addicts really do start using at such a young age. Like you said, you started drinking at what, 4 years old?
Absolutely.
That really happens. I mean, there's horror stories of 13-year-olds who are already on Suboxone to get off of heroin because they've been shooting heroin since they were 10 years old for whatever reason. I mean, it's 10 years old. Yeah, it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't have an age limit.
So you work in a detox
Yes.
treatment center.
Yes.
What is the general age range that you see come in?
The youngest I've seen is 18, and the oldest I've seen, I believe, was 65. So it really varies. And I mean, we're an adult facility. We can't take anybody younger than 18, but they do have youth detoxes. I believe it's Teen Challenge. They take patients who are younger than 18.
Is there a limited amount of places that will help youth in recovery?
Yes, there are places, but it is limited. So it is always a struggle, but there are programs that you can refer to. I went into a program at 15 years old. That was the first time I went into a program. So.
In Massachusetts?
Yeah, but I mean, I've been in recovery for 21 years now, and it's rare that I speak to somebody else that's in recovery that didn't have some type of childhood trauma. I mean, our stories are all very similar. Either it was abandonment or abuse or something, and you know, we can't trust the people that we're supposed to trust, our parents or a family member we've been, you know, hurt by, and we don't want to deal with those feelings. So what do? You know, we mask them. You know, as soon as you put the drink or the drug in your body, everything goes away, and you don't have to deal with any thoughts, any feelings, any emotions. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, you know, they had asked me why, why did I choose, to drink and to do drugs? And I said, you know what, really the bottom line was I didn't want to feel what I was feeling. I did not want to feel what I was feeling. And so that's why when, Josh talked about recovery, it's not just putting the drink and the drug down. Okay, that's step one, getting rid of that. Now you're thinking clearly. Now you can process all of these things. Why did I end up here? What did happen to me? And really start working through
Dealing
that.
with the
Yes,
cause.
Yes.
Sure.
Which for me, that's 12-step work. Working your steps is what really kind of helps you dig deep, figure out where your character defects are, what you need to work on. And for me, that's kind of when my real recovery kicked in, is when I started really looking at those things and diving deep and, healing from those past hurts. And, when you can admit them and you're vocal about them, it doesn't give them any strength anymore. It doesn't give them any power anymore. People don't like to talk about abuse or sexual abuse or any of those things. It's taboo to talk about. But when you put it on the table and you say, I've suffered that too, then it gives somebody else the strength to step up and say, you know what, me too. And, then the recovery really begins.
That's when you can start identifying too instead of comparing, because that's what a lot of addicts do when they walk into a meeting. They instantly walk in like, oh, I'm not the same as this person. I'm not the same as that person. I don't have that problem. But that's why it's important.
No, I have to be here, but really I don't have a problem like you guys.
Exactly. So once they start actually sitting down and listening to what the speaker has to say or whatever person is sharing has to say, and it clicks that they went through that too, they're like,
that sounds like me.
Maybe I have that problem. I mean, I know that's how I found my first sponsor. We had a lot in common just from listening to her story, and I chased her around for months trying to get her to be my sponsor.
Oh yeah?
She wouldn't do it because I was fresh into treatment. I just got into a halfway house, so she didn't think I was serious. She wanted to see if I was serious. She gave me this assignment. I had to call her every day for 30 days. I called her 2-3 times a day for 30 days. And
Really?
finally on day 28, she's like, okay, I'll sponsor you.
That's commitment.
Okay, you win.
Yeah, but that's it too. Like you said, you have to chase your recovery like you would chase that high, or else you're not going to get it.
And I would just add to that, and you can chime in on this if you think it's appropriate, but I would say that it is about being serious about your recovery, but it's also a huge hill to climb when you have been addicted for a very long time. Your brain chemistry has changed.
Absolutely.
You can't, if you're a diabetic, you can't say, I'm just going to get up this morning and not be a diabetic.
And that's what makes addiction a disease.
Right.
That's exactly what makes addiction a disease.
Yeah, so
Right.
on that note, what we're working towards as a society is understanding that addiction is a disease, and not a moral failing, right?
It's not.
So,
I mean, you
but
wouldn't-
a lot of people still say it's a choice.
Yeah.
It's not a disease. How do we
Education.
Sure.
I actually had the privilege last week to speak to a group of folks through the North Central Chamber of Commerce, and I did a really quick broad overview of what happens with your brain when you put drugs into it. And really, it's the prefrontal cortex that's affected with the dopamine, and our dopamine levels on a daily basis, you and I, be 100. And if you put cocaine in your body, it goes to 350. If you put methamphetamines in your body, it goes up to 3,000 or 4,000. So,
Wow.
yes. So when your baseline dopamine level is 100 and you put drugs into your body and it goes up to 4,000, your brain tells your body to stop producing the dopamine.
Exactly.
So now
We don't need any more.
when that high goes
chemical
away and that
imbalance
dopamine
is
level
what-
goes back down, your brain stops producing it because it was so high. So then your base level goes from 100 to 80 to 40, and then you don't want to get out of bed and you're depressed and you have that physical dependency on that drug because your body's no longer creating that dopamine. So I did this presentation and I related it to diabetes, right? Because we're not producing the insulin. That's not our fault that our body's not working the way it's supposed to
That's
work.
something everyone can understand. Yeah.
Right? So our body
Tremendous.
stops producing the dopamine because the amount of drugs that we're putting in it creates this huge level, and so our body stops producing it, and then we now have this physical need to continue using because we need our dopamine levels to rise.
It's a great analogy, and it's not just an analogy, it's science. It really is exactly the same process, except one, involves sugar and the body's response, creating insulin. So it's exactly the same response, and yet we treat it very, very differently. If someone shows up at the emergency room and they have gone into cardiac arrest because they're obese and they're diabetic and they've eaten a diet that makes them predisposed to diabetes,
Heart disease.
no one says to them, well, you kind of did this yourself, didn't you? No one says that. We spend a ton of money helping those people, and we provide services, and we...
It's the number one cause of death, heart disease, right?
Right. And so, we just treat people who also have a disease, the disease of addiction. We treat them very, very differently when they show up in the emergency room. We wag our finger at them and we say, well, didn't you make a bad decision?
And God forbid, like, you're actually hurt and they know that you're an addict and you really need something, be it an ibuprofen, they're going to automatically assume you're just there
Looking for drug seeking.
something.
Sure.
You could go in with your arm hanging off and they would think you were med seeking because there's such a terrible stigma on addicts.
Yeah.
I worked for a short time. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, go.
For a long time, actually, at a hospital. And on one side, on the 5th floor, was the dual diagnosis detox. And on the other side was a medical floor. And just as you said, like, people were there on the other side for, diabetes, cancer, and so on. And even the level of support from family is so different.
Yeah.
When you're in the hospital for a medical procedure, people are sending you cards, they're bringing you flowers, all the well wishes. Unfortunately, when you're in a facility for recovery, it's kind of, you do get treated like the plague. Some of those
Very
patients
different,
do.
And part of that is because, the disease of addiction takes over and we usually burn bridges, we're drug seeking or, looking for alcohol, so we're, committing crimes or we're stealing from our parents or those types of things. So we've burnt those bridges.
Sure.
So when someone actually finally ends up in treatment, people are like, again, and well, they did this to me. And, so I always encourage people and try to educate them about the disease. It's not a choice. We're not making the choice. We're not making a conscious decision. Our brain is broken when we're in active addiction, and we're not saying, I'm really going to break my mother's heart today and steal from her.
We didn't wake up in the morning and say, I think I'm going to go get myself addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how our mind works. I mean, the whole addiction choice thing, a lot of people's arguments is, well, you chose to put that drug in your body for the first time. Okay, well, the diabetic who has type 2 diabetes chose to eat too many candy bars. Are you going to lessen his disease? No, you're not. Sometimes we didn't choose to put that first drug in our body. Sometimes we were overprescribed
The vast
at the doctor's
majority of
office.
addiction to opioid, 86% is through legal prescriptions.
Not even just opioids, even stuff like methamphetamines. You get a child who's on ADHD medication, right? They're going to start self-medicating with cocaine.
Yeah.
It's the same drug.
Really?
Really, it's not even just about the opiates. It's about every single drug that comes from a doctor's office. They're not being prescribed properly, and they're not being stopped properly, and that's where the problem comes in.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Where's the change for that? I mean,
Well, there was a year and a half ago, they did pass a bill through the Senate and the House, and I heard just recent statistics that opioid prescriptions are down 22%.
They're down, and the prescription drug monitoring program has made a difference. However, I think the statistics also show that it really hasn't made much of any impact on people who are currently addicted and struggling to recover. We still see those deaths, and those deaths in many cases continue to occur because of a lack of education, because we continue to blame the person who's addicted. We don't recognize that addiction is a pediatric disease. In most cases, most people would never criticize a child for having a disease, and yet that's what we do, because most people who are addicted to a substance began early as a child.
Like the ACE study.
Exactly. And we also, and there's something very sinister at work here too. We know that, for the last 10 years, say, we've been living a nightmare. We've seen we've seen so many young people die, and their whole life was ahead of them, and we lost them. We've lost children, mothers, fathers. But the last 10 years have been a dream come true for pharma. They have made so much money. They are rich beyond their wildest dreams.
With opioid prescriptions or with
Everything,
Narcan?
though, everything. But it's opioid prescription. But I believe the statistic is that we are, the 5th largest nation, but we consume over 75% of the world's prescription drugs and medication.
Really?
Yes, just the U.S. alone.
And it's not because we're sicker.
No. I think in 2016, I believe there were 116 deaths per day from opioid.
In the entire United States.
116 per day. So, as you were just saying, Susan, you were talking about children, and obviously all these people that are dying is someone's child. 116 a day. Just imagine that, right? If you went into a school, that's probably like 6 classrooms a day. If you look at it that way, that people are dying.
And would you say a majority are young people?
I think,
Sure.
a majority.
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
if you
are
open
young.
the newspaper and you see 28 unexpectedly in their home,
16.
You think
16 unexpectedly in their home, the chances of it being from an overdose, I mean, that's even for us as addicts, that's our first thing. It's, oh my goodness, did they overdose?
To Rich's point, in 2016, I think across the U.S. we lost 64,000 people, which was more than the lives that we lost in the Vietnam War total.
Absolutely.
I believe last weekend, I think someone just told me that in Lowell, there were 20 overdose deaths, but
Last
were
weekend.
fortunately
Last weekend.
revived by Narcan.
All of them?
I believe so.
I don't think there was
Yes.
any fatalities, right?
And this
believe
is it the fentanyl? Fentanyl?
Which is pretty much all that anyone can get these days. I'm not sure anyone's getting heroin
No,
anymore.
probably not.
Just
Right.
getting fentanyl, which is particularly
Or is it heroin cut
deadly.
with fentanyl?
Correct.
Maybe a little bit of both,
Yeah,
but
well,
fentanyl is a synthetic opiate.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, I don't even think the Narcan's working the first couple times. on
Right, they're
fentanyl.
having to use multiple doses, which again, Big Pharma's making money because, they created the Narcan for us.
And so now it ends up, unfortunately, being like the Narcan is like their plan B. It's like, look, I'm going to use these opioids here, and in case IOD, I got this Narcan here waiting for me to bring me back so I can use again.
And whenever you discuss this on social media, you have a small hateful minority that say no Narcan, let them die.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I don't
very
think they'd be
unfortunate.
saying that if that was
but,
their mother or their
sure,
father or their
sure.
son or their daughter.
Absolutely
Right?
not.
I mean,
Yeah.
And
addicts are human beings.
Everybody's
there's
got a chance to turn
there's such a
around.
divide,
Yeah.
when it comes to addiction.
And a lot of anger. I've heard that social media people like, oh well, you give Narcan for free. Why can't we get cancer medication for free? It's that's why I'm huge on sharing the fact that I'm in addiction. That I am in recovery myself, but also just constantly educating people, putting statistics out there. I'm always putting stuff on my Facebook for people to read and to educate themselves, and always put it out there. If you have questions, come and talk to me, because I can appreciate someone, who has a loved one that has cancer and, doesn't understand the disease of addiction, and their loved one can't get cancer medication. I can sympathize with that absolutely all day,
Kind of angry,
but
and
it's
you're finding someone to be angry
yes,
at.
yeah. So I welcome those conversations because that the anger is coming from somewhere, So if we can get to the root of that and educate that person, that's one more. I'm constantly educating people about the disease of addiction and how we got here, how we can, how can we get away from where we are. I mean, we have made a lot of strides. There is a lot of people now that are educated. The Fitchburg Police Department is amazing. You know, we've got the Office for Community Corrections in Fitchburg. Our judge
We
is
have a
amazing.
recovery coach.
Yes, yes.
Dedicated to the city.
Yeah, so I think, you know, I mean, because Susan and I are on national calls with Facing Addiction, and we hear stories from other people in other parts of the country that don't have these types
Sure,
of programs. So
sure.
we're
Right.
super progressive and very lucky in the Fitchburg area, but still much more needs to be done.
But it is about that education, like even for myself who is in the field for a number of years, but speaking on the phone today to Susan, and she dropped some good knowledge on me today, and the relationship I've been able to develop with Tara, and continue to learn from people that have walked the walk, and listening to Ashley earlier in there, and the two of you, it's phenomenal that you could bring this dais, I guess, together.
Well, on that note, there are different paths to recovery as well, right?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if everyone's path is different, but there are so many different ways. Maybe we can talk a little bit about what your path
Like in regards to
recovery.
getting clean or sober.
Right. I mean, like some people just, go cold turkey. Some people have to go into recovery. Some people have to get, incarcerated. Some people do Suboxone or
The Suboxone methadone treatments, yeah.
Yeah, or
Vivitrol.
Vivitrol. Yeah.
I
Well,
personally was a
let's talk
Section
to that.
35.
So your family.
Not quite.
So for about 4 months, I was trying to get into treatment, but I didn't care about having health insurance because I only cared about my next one. So I didn't have any insurance, so I kept missing the free beds, which were state funded. Finally, I found myself alone and desperate in a hotel room, getting high with somebody. Actually, I wasn't really alone, but I felt alone. And he had told me you could section yourself. So I did. I called my mother. I'm like, I need you to bring me to the courthouse. She was a little skeptical at first because I had always told her, come get me, take me to treatment, and then I'd get the magic phone call and I'd be out of the car and I wouldn't go to treatment. So she was afraid that that was going to happen. And she was also afraid that if I didn't get a bed in a facility that I was going to end up in jail. But at that point I didn't even care because I was already praying to not wake up. I was praying that the next knock on the door would be a police officer because I picked up some charge that I didn't know about. Like, I just wanted to get help. And I am so grateful that they have something like a Section 35 facility. Unfortunately, I don't think it's as easy for addicts to section themselves anymore, and sometimes their family doesn't want to get involved and they won't bring them down, and it has to be an immediate family member.
It's not like it used to be. Is that what you're
No, actually in 2017 they stopped allowing people to come into section themselves, so you do need an immediate family member to do it.
So, and that is very true. However, in the Fitchburg court, because Judge Lecanto is so amazing, they work with you. The probation officers will work with you. So if, you presented and, they were like, oh, okay, well, she, can't really section herself, they will have a probation officer assist and request the Section 35 on behalf
Thank you, I didn't know that.
of the actual
At the
person.
Fitchburg courthouse.
Fitchburg court, yes. Fitchburg
So I
court, that's
actually
not-
ran in to the advocate who helped my mother section me.
Judge advocate.
She was, usually they assign somebody to defend the addict who doesn't want to get sectioned, but she was, because I was so willing to go into treatment, the judge actually agreed that if there was no bed available, they were going to release me to my mother's custody because I walked in begging for help. Like, I was just finally done. I can't say that I stayed clean. I did relapse after 9 months. I got complacent. I stopped going to meetings. I wasn't reaching out. I completed my halfway house. I completed the 42 days at the treatment facility, but I wasn't quite working my program anymore. But because of what I learned in my Section 35 facility and what I learned in my 12-step fellowship, right, I was able to make my way back to a 12-step meeting and get clean again. And I've been
Fairly
clean
quickly
since.
after relapsing?
I was out for about, I want to say 9 months. So I had 9 months clean and 9 months back out using. And I justified my using because that's what we do. We justify and rationalize.
Something really terrible happened.
It wasn't, I was justifying and rationalizing because like I was still, working. I was still paying what I needed to pay. I was still, living up the persona that I was clean, but I wasn't. I was lying to myself, and when we lie to ourselves, we just get sicker and sicker and sicker. But I thank God, my higher power, for allowing me to find a meeting in the area that I moved back to so I could get clean again. I'll have 4 years on November 30th.
Awesome.
So,
Congratulations.
yeah,
4 years is a long time.
it is. But like you said, I really only have today. Like, I am not exempt from a relapse at all.
Yep.
I could walk out and make one bad decision. I could pick up one drink and it would turn into my drug of choice in a heartbeat.
Can I ask a question, just to all of you somehow to, I guess, answer it? Do you find that recovery is different for men and women?
I don't think so.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's different from men and women, but I do feel that more men end up in recovery than women.
Okay.
Really?
Why do you think that is?
So do you want to answer that?
No, go ahead. You can hear it. But I think it's more like a woman probably feels more ashamed, like they shouldn't be doing, getting high and getting drunk, like
Maybe
a
if
lot
they
of
have
women.
children as well.
Yeah, they have children, so they
Yeah.
should be taking care of the kid, being a good mom, and this and that, and like justifying. You know, what I mean, I don't know. I don't agree with it, to be honest, but I just feel like.
Well, I see it in the ratios at where I work.
Yeah.
It's really sad. And when I go on commitments or when you walk into a meeting, there's a lot more men in the meetings than there are women.
Yeah, there's more men that stick with the programs for some weird reason. I don't.
Do you ever think
I
that
don't even
there's
know how to answer
a
that.
possibility
It's the lifestyle.
that
Exactly.
some, especially if a woman has children, that maybe if they're going to go into recovery, that some service might take their children, or
Maybe, but then they shouldn't be like that, because every meeting you go to or wherever, they influence you to bring your kids. Like, I got my kids almost all the time.
There's
And-
childcare available at most
No, they can be right there
they
with
just
you.
sit
Bring
there.
your headphones. You got coloring books, or you got people that are in.
Well, as long as you got the cell phone.
You know, and
Yes,
there's a lot of comfort in meetings. You know, and, there's a lot of support. You
What a
know,
camaraderie.
and people that are single
Families.
parents, they know it's tough to deal with recovery and still take care of your kids and live on life terms. Because as an addict or an alcoholic, we choose every excuse in the book to get high or drunk. Oh, the dishes are dirty, I'm gonna go get high. You know what I mean?
I'm going to clean them better because I'm high.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's what we do, And so, like, they encourage you to bring your kids, because if you don't, if say you're home single parent, you got your kids all the time. Oh, I can't go to a meeting because
That's a
I got
good
my
excuse.
Yeah,
kids.
don't let
Yes.
it be an
Yeah.
excuse for you
No,
not to.
bring them with you. You're gonna get what you need when you come. And
How do you experience that? Because you run a women's transitional and sober house.
supportive living house for women in
Supportive
recovery.
living
yes.
house, yes. And so what do you feel like with women and their families? What do you feel like they come to you in recovery? What's their path to recovery for your
So,
position?
Sam, a lot of the women that come to us are very broken. And I think that when, as I mentioned earlier, maybe feeling a little fear or guilt about leaving children behind in order to get well. And then what we also see is, again, going back to guilt, not feeling worthy that you should be better at times.
Feeling worthy.
Yes, I think, and
Like you
maybe
don't
some of-
deserve
Yes,
this?
thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
But also,
You don't deserve to be happy.
Yep.
correct, and also,
That's a big issue about the hopeless feeling.
sure, with the children, with women, with children, feeling that by going into recovery and acknowledging what that must be like for some women, to acknowledge that you are not capable at this time of taking care of your child, and the effects that that might have on someone's just emotional core. You know, where again, unfortunately, you know, so in our society, you know what, you're not supposed to feel that way as a woman, you know, and as I think you alluded to earlier, it's easier for men to just kind of go in and, you know what, hey honey, I'm going into recovery, you take care of the kids basically, see you later.
And their struggle is just like you, if not
Sure.
worse. Because, you know, they got a lot, women, in my opinion, have a lot more stress if they got kids at home because they're dealing with the kids 24/7, and that could be real tough. And I get my kids, I got them like 24/7 pretty much because my kid's mother's in a tough situation, so I've been there for her and I've been helping her. But I bring my kids with me to meetings all the time, and my kids tell me daily, Dad, I'm proud of you. You know, and that goes so long way. And as a woman,
it's
I
gonna
would
make you feel good.
Yeah, I would encourage them. Hey, bring your kids with you, and they're gonna support you because we need all the support we can get, and that's a big recovery tool that you need. If you
So
ain't,
you can bring your kids to meetings.
yeah, absolutely.
We would rather see children in a meeting than in a trap house or in the backseat of a
Yeah.
car with their parents overdose.
Absolutely. You know.
You know?
I grew up actually. I mean, I grew up in an alcoholic home, but my mom got sober when I was 11, and then she brought me to meetings with her. And I'm grateful that she did that because I learned so much in the halls of Alcoholics Anonymous before I even picked up. That when I picked up, I immediately knew I was addicted because of what I had learned going to meetings with my mother.
I bring mine too. I mean, we do the little keychains in NA. My kids know all the sayings, they know all the little readings that they do in the meetings, and they get so excited to see people recovering.
What's a keychain?
A key tag. So, like they have in Alcoholics Anonymous, in Narcotics Anonymous, we give out little key tags for various lengths of clean time.
Oh, okay.
So,
Like the coin.
Yes.
yes, it's like a coin, but we do
Key tags.
Key tags,
we do
key
key
chains.
tags. Yeah. So they know the little sayings that go with giving them out, and they're always asking, "When's the next dance? When's the next camp out?" Like they want to be involved too, you know. And it's important because it's a family disease.
It is a family disease.
And so your meetings, you also, like you say, you guys are with, you know, friends with 10 of your fellow graduates.
Yeah,
When you go to meetings, do you do camp out? You do activities
there's
together?
so much fun in recovery.
The recovery high.
Because you're with a group of people that can understand your situation completely.
Exactly.
And that you've been sharing your life with as well, so that you've connected with.
Connection, and that goes back to that.
And that's
And I certainly didn't want to imply earlier that women are not working
No.
and
Yeah, right.
still
No, but-
struggling to hold that together as well,
Right.
while being in recovery and taking care of kids. And
For me,
should
I
be
just found
more,
it harder
though.
to get out of the lifestyle. You know, I mean, I knew I wanted to get out of the lifestyle, but it was just so hard because I didn't feel like I deserved to get out. Like my kids were already gone.
Worthy,
You know, what
You mean
more?
like taken away?
They were. Well, I like to say that they were given away because I couldn't take care of them. You know, and after a long fight with the system, you know, being told that I would never get them back, like that was my, oh, I'm never gonna get them back? Okay, I will show you. And that's when I really started trying to get into treatment, and that's when I really got it. And that's when, you know, things started to fall back. I mean, we don't promise that anything's gonna happen in recovery, but we can say that if you put in the work to try to get yourself a little bit better, things will start falling into place the way they're supposed to.
Yep.
You know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Charlie, I noticed you brought a guitar.
Oh,
What
yeah.
is that? What do you do with that? Are you the
to look cool.
Are you the musician of your group?
Yeah, of the little
Absolutely.
team right there of the 10 people. It's just another way to keep recovery going, keeping me active without, you know, instead of picking up a drink or a drug, pick up my guitar, you know,
That's awesome.
writing. I recently just hooked up with one of my old bandmates through Making Amends.
Making amends.
Yeah, Making Amends is, you know, part of the
12 steps.
What,
the 12 steps,
Part of
yeah.
12 steps.
Yeah, and it went over well. You know, as I said, you can tell me to, you know, kick rocks if you want to, and he's like, dude, I would never say that to you. So
Oh, you mean someone that you might have wronged?
Yes.
exactly, like that's what I was saying.
The tough,
due
those
to
tough
the-
conversations.
Yep, tough conversations,
No one
but
wants to deal with it.
important conversations. Yeah, you know, life is tough, so you don't need to be messed up to deal with it. You want your game face on.
Do you find people are generally
Receptive.
forgiving?
For the most part, yeah. Yeah.
Time.
Yeah.
Time, exactly. All in time.
That's part of the healing, you know, realizing what we did wrong,
Yeah.
and then become willing to make the amends, you know, and having that opportunity. I'm a big 12-step, you know, enthusiast because I feel like that's where, you know, we have all these hurts and hang-ups and things that caused us to drink or to do drugs, but in our drinking and drug use, we also then caused harm to other people, right? So we need to take responsibility for that as well. We can't, you know, in active addiction, you're like, well, you know, this person did that, and my mom did this, and my dad did, and there's all this finger pointing, and then when you finally, you know, put the alcohol and the drugs down, then it's like, okay, yes, you know, there was trauma, there was this, there was that, but what is my part? What did I do wrong? And how can I right that wrong? Because, you know, we need to take responsibility for our actions.
Personal responsibility.
And it's all helping you to heal from your original problems.
Then they accept that we were wrong, you know what I mean? And you can move forward from it.
Yeah.
It's very big, you know, acceptance.
I know that many or several of the people that are here today were at the recent event that we did at the Fitchburg Art Museum.
Exactly.
And we really celebrated the role of the arts in recovery. And
Like
one
music or poetry.
Sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean,
Actually,
it
it's
really
gonna
builds on strengths that
be
people
how I do
have.
my commitments down at the sheriff's office. So it's getting the ball rolling and getting me more active in programs and sending out the word of recovery. That's why thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yes, and one of the challenges of recovery is that you are. I think we all know what it's like to try to break a bad habit or get into a habit, and part of the addiction is the routine. The routine, it could be of putting on the putting on the strap and feeling the needle. And doing things with your fingers, whether it's smoking or drinking, it's those repetitive behaviors that become part of
Quitting smoking, they chew on a pen.
Exactly,
And that goes hand to hand with the
So
mental
playing the
disorders.
guitar, painting, learning to knit, this is a way of teaching our hands to do new things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Retraining your brain.
Sure.
Exactly, exactly. I can't wait to hear Charlie.
Yeah.
Are you going to play for us?
I will. It's up to you how long. I got a couple songs in mind just for the occasion, but if not, I can shorten it up.
All right. Sure. Why don't we play?
Alrighty.
Hit it, Charlie.
I love your strap.
Thank you. Got to go homemade, you know. No.
We go to Chibo
Go
every
home,
Friday.
go home.
Oh, you play a chibo?
Yeah, he does. Every Friday we go and drink hot chocolate and stuff. It's so fun.
Awesome.
Play you a song. It's dedicated to guys of SRH down in Southern California, or anybody riding a motocross bike right now, or getting some mud on their tires. Yeah, there was a full moon, loons and goons, everybody mashing through the sand and said, I'm a fool, I fell for you. And that's me talking out some trees and brews, but get loose, cause I need a review. Are you digging me as much as I dig you, to tell the truth? I'm a simple dude, blown back by the thought of just loving you. So come on, see the riverbed, jump right in, yes we want you wet. So come on, around the bend, one more time, yes we'll go again. There was a full moon, balloons and goons, everybody wildin' on some ones and twos, but who knew? And that inside of them shoes are down at nice lady with a good attitude. Well, that's news, not just an excuse. Give it all you got, jump swinging from a noose to tell the truth. I'm a simple dude, blown back by the thought of just loving you. So come on, see the riverbed, jump right in. Yes, we want you wet. So come on, around the bend, one more time. Yes, we'll go again. Where are you going? Yeah, there was a full moon. Balloons and goons. Everybody drawn together, all from different crews. But who knew I'd be here with you? A chance to live life and share a laugh or two. Well, way cool. She left a clue. Here's how to reach me. Call me soon to tell the truth. I'm a simple dude, blown back by the thought of just loving you. So come on, see the riverbed, jump right in. Yes, we want you wet. So come on, around the bend, one more time. Yes, we'll go again.
On Fridays. What's that, 6 p.m. open mic?
7 to 11.
7 to 11 at
Absolutely.
Chibo. Yeah, very nice. Yeah. All right, well, thank you. All right, so we have about 3 minutes left. And how I'd like to close the show is just to talk quickly about suggestions on going into recovery, right? For those that might want to take that step, what would your suggestion be, quickly?
Go to meetings for sure.
Absolutely.
Ask for
How do we
help.
find out about meetings?
Courthouses, they got flyers. I bring them to the sheriff's station. You go online, you go Google.
They actually have an, Narcotics Anonymous has an app too. It's
Yeah.
called the nameetingfinder.org.
Yeah.
NA Meeting Finder.
Yes, or you can dial 1-800-NA-HELP-YOU. That's, they can point you in the right direction too.
And you can reach Tara or myself at Facing Addiction in Fitchburg and Beyond. We have a Facebook page, or you could reach us at the Joint Coalition on Health. We're always willing to talk to people and find out where they're at and what they need. Tara's wonderful. She knows all the resources out there, and so I would just encourage people to reach out and get involved and ask questions, and it's going to take all of us together to make a difference and solve this issue.
Sure. I guess I would just say number one is to make it about you.
Yeah.
Make it about yourself. That you're probably not going to do it for your parents, your kids. They'll certainly all benefit. But it has to be, you have to be selfish in a positive way to make it all about you. And I think one other comment I'd like to just make is that, Tara had mentioned about when people drink and use drugs to numb themselves. And I think people should just be aware that emotions and feelings are all connected. So if you're trying to numb one to avoid being sad or angry, you're probably going to see that you have a difficult time experiencing real joy as well.
Being happy.
Yeah.
And once the drugs and alcohol wear off, the problem's still there.
Yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And family is always good. Some of them won't be there, but the ones who are, they know you love, you'll know they love you. And just want to throw this out there that hugs are better than drugs.
Yes.
Hugs are better than drugs.
Hey, you got to write a song about that.
Just know that you're not alone. Don't let the guilt and the shame, keep you active in your addiction. Reach out and ask for help, because the moment you open up your mouth, it's literally just a phone call away.
You'll start to be able to make connections and make friends with
why I'm so
more
open about
communities
me.
of people.
That way, because people reach out.
All right, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, Sam.
This has
Thank you
been
very
our
much.
show, a recovery roundtable. You can go to Facing Addiction in Fitchburg and Beyond for more information, the Joint Coalition on Health as well, and as suggested, go to a meeting. All right, so thank you very much.
Thank you.